I'm going to give way to my former opponent, the Right Honourable Member for Islington North.
So, before we hear Boris Johnson's reply to Jeremy Corbyn, let's hear how Corbyn summed up the legacy of Johnson.
I'm grateful to the Prime Minister for taking a break from his fantasy tour of this country. Could he take one moment to explain why 14 million people in this country are living in poverty, why there are more food banks than there are branches of McDonald's, why there is a mental health crisis, why Big Pharma have made so much out of owning the patents of the vaccines, why his government is presiding over the enriching of the richest, the impoverishment of the poorest, and the greatest job insecurity in industry after industry. He has created poverty, inequality and insecurity. That is his legacy.
I'm thrilled to be debating again with the Right Honourable Gentleman.
This sort of response in itself is indicative of Johnson. He sees it all as a debate. There's no real association between the figures he spews and the electorate he pretends to support.
And since our last encounters, I can tell him I am proud that we've actually got unemployment down to at or no record lows. I know that he'd rather have people on benefits, but I don't think that's the way forward, Mr. Speaker.
What a That's just red meat for the Daily Mail readers.
And he talks about 14 million people. Let me tell him, 40 million people voted, 14 million people voted for this Conservative government.
That's a pathetic comparison, just because 14 million people voted Tory and 14 million people are in poverty, and it means he doesn't even address the issue at all. And I would bet quite a few million now regret that decision and think Johnson is a
and this Conservative government is undefeated at the polls, and never let that be forgotten.
Now here's where Johnson shows his true narcissistic side, hanging on to a figure to show how he once conned the nation into liking and voting for him.
Of course, at the same time, just a moment, we've been investing massively in schools, as I say, and it's by making our streets and our communities safer, by making our population healthier, by ensuring that our kids are literate and numerate at the age of 11, and our goal is to get up to 90% by 11 rather than the current 65%, Mr. Speaker.
None of that was backed up by any facts or examples.
We've been driven throughout this last 3 years by a very simple vision. We Conservatives believe that there is genius and talent everywhere, and energy and imagination distributed in every corner of this country. But we don't think that's the same for opportunity, Mr. Speaker. And our immense programme of levelling up.
Oh, here he goes again with levelling up. It's just a slogan.
Is driven by the simple mathematical observation. If per capita GDP, productivity were evenly distributed in the UK as they are in our major competitors, then this would be by some way the most prosperous economy in Europe. And of course it would also be the morally right thing to do, Mr. Speaker.
So, with the Conservatives being in power for 12 years, why hasn't it been done?